Quick thank you to the T5 peeps. Bob the Dragon, Datamagnet, Cat Crab Lobster, DuckMachine, Try Again 95, Astraya the Dreamer, Mezec, Feudic Jarl, Germanchemist, Casper Arnholtz, and Chaos to Must. Thank you very much. Story number 1. Kill the meat, save the metal. Written by the stabby Brit. Combat is supposed to be simple. So simple, in fact, that it's not even supposed to happen. Here's how a typical battle went in my experience. It began with a cordial announcement. Greetings, merchant ship. I am Havarac, captain of the pirate raider Doomson. Please proceed to your escape pods in an orderly fashion. A distress buoy will be deployed for you once your ship is in our possession. No one need be harmed. Most people went along with this because this is all entirely reasonable. I understand losing a ship can be unpleasant, but nobody dies, and the insurance company will help you back on your feet, or tentacles, or whatever you have. Needless to say, when a human merchant ship responded with, "Get fecked," and powered up its guns, we were all a little surprised. Now look, I said, my ship is faster and more heavily armed than yours. You won't last 10 minutes in a fight with us. Just give us the ship and nobody needs to get hurt. The human replied, "This ship has been in my family for 4 generations. My great-grandfather helped lay down its keel, and my grandfather was the first to chart this course. I'll die before I let you take it." Fair enough, I thought. "Helm, bring us." I stopped, because the helmsman was looking downright terrified. I think a proximity alarm went off, just briefly, before everything went to hell. The human merchant went superluminal. For the merest fraction of a second, they were traveling faster than the speed of light, and appeared right under our keel. Then momentum slammed them into us and sent both ships tumbling together, shedding hull fragments and venting gas. I have to admit, I was almost looking forward to what would follow. It reminded me of the bad old days when I was a lowly crewman and we were making a name for ourselves. I hatched a plan. We'd capture the captain and then give the rest of the crew a choice. Surrender and be left adrift in space while we ran off with their ship. Or die. Finding the human captain was the easy part. He was the lunatic storming through the impact site with an antique cutlass in one hand and a plasma cutter in the other. He was screaming at the top of his lungs, "For the old Lady Jane!" I think that's what they called their ship. He had hacked his way through 2 of my men by the time I got there, so I was beginning to take us all personally. Half a dozen of them were attacking us, despite my crew outnumbering them 2 to 1 and having superior weapons. It took a good 20 minutes to push them off our ship, and then another 10 of laying down suppressing fire while the technician used the auto measure to seal the breach point. We were left with 3 prisoners, including their captain. A good result, I thought. I addressed the remaining humans. "I am Havarac, captain of the pirate raider Doomson. If you wish to see your captain and crew alive again, you will all abandon ship immediately, and we will blow up these pirate bastards," the captain roared. "Come on, Gray, I want them turned to dust." "Now, hang on a minute," I protested. "You, Commander Gray, are you really going to sacrifice one of your own? Aren't 3 human lives worth more than a rusting pile of scrap?" I should not have said that. I realize that now, with the benefit of hindsight. "That ship has been our home for 4 generations, and we can always make more humans," the captain said, in a voice as welcoming as a black hole. "But there's only one old Lady Jane. Commander, let fly!" I believe there is a human idiom to describe what happened next, cutting off one's nose to spite one's face. The old Lady Jane certainly lost its nose as the point-blank barrage of her guns resulted in some catastrophic kickback. By accident or design, her ancient mass drivers punched a pair of hypersonic rounds clean through our keel and exited right through the bridge. The impact was so staggering, it temporarily killed the gravity plating, and by the time I had stopped tumbling, I had fallen out of our holding pens and was now lying on the ceiling in weapons control. I tried to raise the bridge, and when that failed, I grabbed our bloodied gunnery officer and floated past and screamed in his face, "Return fire!" "We can't, sir," he squeaked, shaking his arm towards his terminal. "They're too close. We'll destroy ourselves." He was right, of course. The human weapons were pellet guns compared to our batteries. At this range, we'd have turned old Lady Jane to cosmic dust with a single trigger pull. But the self-inflicted damage would have surely left us dead in the void. In all likelihood, the room we two occupied would be exposed to a hard vacuum. The knowledge that our insane prisoners would be painted across the ceiling of their cells was small comfort, and so I did the only thing a sane person would do. "Surrender!" I stammered. "Re-establish communications with the humans and surrender!" That was that, really. In the end, the crew of the old Lady Jane killed more than their own than we did. By all accounts, 2 of our prisoners for a start. The young female who brings us the rations said that the captain was alive, but might never walk again. Now whose fault is that, I ask you? It was their guns who broke his spine, but they aren't in the mood to listen to my rational and objectively correct assessment of the situation. I suppose there are 2 upsides to all of this. The first is I'm going to get out of this alive, even if my pirate career is temporarily on hold. The second is that the cells aboard the Doomson are surprisingly comfortable. End of story. Story number 2. There are rules written by Pickpocket. Humans rarely rest. Sure, they sleep, just like any other creature, but they rarely, ever rest. Even in the short times they close their eyes and let the tension go, their senses still seek out the slightest shift in their surroundings, the gentlest note of change. On their odd squat ships, formed all angles and bristling weapons, there is never a period of silence, not even as the engines are brought to no power. Still, the hum of humanity swarming about is palpable. In refugee camps, cities, and across the stars, always, humans buzz about their duties. They do not share the sleep rituals of any other species that I have ever met. Always, a human remains present and alert. Always, it seems, they never relax. I go through all of this to make a point. Humans rarely rest, but when they do, it is a sacrosanct time. War, that churning, endless beast even bends beneath the sacred nature of this rest. Cannons fall silent. Stars themselves, I think, would stop in the heavens if the humans' rest demanded it. That had been the Karok folly. They dared to see weakness in the abrupt halt of human forces. Promised reinforcements sat at anchor, and the Karak sprang to exploit this weakness. No, this mercy. 20 human ships were scuttled at anchor, and 3 colonies burned as the humans remembered. They remembered the horrors of Earth. They remembered the day the blue jewel burned. But above all else, they remembered Ithilia that dared to spit on their time of rest. Something awoke in the collective consciousness. Something old and powerful. Something truly horrifying. Truly human. The Karak struck the human military assets at anchor, and what struck back in response could only be described as the angered current's hive swarm. The humans called it merchant navy. The great war fleet, mustered from civilian ships, offered and crewed willingly by non-combatants. I remember the night of those 1,000 stars as if they were burned into my memory. I think because it is. 20 ships were lost on the sacred holy day of Earth. 100 Karak ships were torn apart, bolt by melted bolt, the next day. The day after, so great a merchant fleet gathered on the border of infested space, their collapsing slipfields lit the great dark expanse with 1,000 stars pulsing in unison. The whole galaxy held its breath, unable to even muster a guess as to how the humans had raised an armada so grand, even the greatest Federation shipyards would take decades to match it. But we, the Tazari, knew. We had always known. From the first time our ambassadors broke bread, as is the human way, we had seen a glint in their eyes and a spring in their step. Humanity was glad to be amongst the sapient creatures of the vast emptiness. Gladder still to offer their full and unconditional support to the elves, as they liked to call us. As the first diplomat to New Earth, I learned swiftly of the human dedication to family, duty, and honor. It was rather frightening at first, I must admit. But I held firm. I learned many things about the humans. Important things. There are rules to engaging the humans, and the Carrick broke the greatest of all. Never, ever interrupt their day of mourning, for only death lies down that road. End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed